Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio, and today we're going to be having a look at a really good new supporter card. Now, when I say really good, I'm not talking reset stamp level. We looked at that earlier, and yes, that's a bit ridiculous. If you haven't seen it, it's literally the video I uploaded before this one, but I will pop a link in the description because I'm nice like that. But this is still a new draw supporter, and new draw supporters are good. So what does it do? Well, it is Coach Trainer. You might recognize them from Let's Go. And you draw 2 cards, but if your active Pokemon is a tag team, you draw 2 more cards. Now, what is very interesting about a bunch of cards like this yesterday that refer to tag teams, not tag team GXs. To be clear, as it stands at the moment, there is no such thing as a non-GX tag team. But this is a very good example of future-proofing. Maybe we will have non-GX tag teams in the future. Maybe we won't. Incidentally, this is not foreshadowing, it's future-proofing. Now, if we have any non-GX tag teams, they will be covered by this as well. And this is drawing 4 cards, and I've made this point in a bunch of videos in the past. Generally speaking, drawing 4 cards is not an easy thing to do. We can draw 4 cards, but we can only draw 4 cards under specific circumstances. So we've had Sophocles in the past that does let you draw 4 cards, just so long as you discard 2 cards from your hand before you do so. And we had Evelyn. You can only play this card if your opponent's active Pokemon is a stage 1. Draw 4 cards. Well, this is really hyper awkward, ladies and gentlemen, because now you're hoping you're playing against a stage 1. And yeah, sure, there's plenty of Zoroark decks out there, but there's also plenty of Tag Team GX decks. This is way better, because this allows you to manipulate the condition under which you can draw 4 cards. And just as pure draw, this is great. This is 1 more card than how. And how is that not a good thing? I know I said I'd stop making those puns, but we all know it's not going to stop, so sorry. It is a really good amount of pure draw. Now, admittedly, at the moment, we do have Erica's Hospitality, which lets you draw 1 card for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon, which on the one hand is really good, but on the other hand, it is in your opponent's control. They can just limit their bench and be like, gutted. Now you don't get to draw very many cards. Tee-hee-hee, tee-hee-hee. And you can only play it if you've got 4 or fewer cards in your hand, not including Erica's Hospitality. So actually, just being able to drop this and draw 4 cards, it is quite a bit better. The other pure draw we have at the moment is Lily. Lily lets you draw until you've got 6 cards in your hand. So in order to actually make Lily as good as this, you've got to have a hand of 1, 2, or 0 cards. That's not easy. Now, admittedly, on the first turn of the game, or your first turn, Lily does let you draw until you've got 8 cards in hand, and yeah, that does become quite a bit better. But that's just 1 turn of the game. Make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of drawing, this is a really good draw card. We are not usually allowed to draw 4 cards, and this is about the easiest way we can do so, though admittedly it does limit you to the kind of decks you're allowed to play. Now, I want to go back to how just for a second, because there are inevitably going to be some people who go, come on, Wassy, drawing 1 extra card, is that really a big deal? Yes! Yes, it is. It's the reason why Cynthia is a staple in basically every deck, and Tate and Liza sees almost, well, not almost no play, that's an exaggeration, but really not that much play. Tate and Liza lets you get a new hand of 5 cards, but can also be a switch if need be, whereas Cynthia gets you a new hand of 6 cards, and ladies and gentlemen, this is so much better. And that means that Coach Trainer is so much better than How. So I think at this point we've established it's a really good card. Also, right, that extra 1 card, it could be the Electro Power, which means that you actually win the game. It could be the Ultra Ball that gets you that 1 Pokemon that you need in order to actually win. So make no mistake about it, this is a huge deal. So the question now becomes, alright, but are there actually any decks in which we're going to want to play this? Now, the good news is there is one deck over in Japan that has done rather well, I'll pop a link to it in the description, which will definitely want to play this. We've had a quad Buzzwole and Pheromosa deck, which has been doing rather well over in Japan, and the only Pokemon it plays is 4 copies of Buzzwole and Pheromosa, or Pheromosa and Buzzwole, I think it actually is. Which means that you are always going to have that active. Problem is, and this is one of the biggest problems for this deck as a whole, we got Green Search. And Green Search lets you search for any 2 trainer cards as long as you've got no Pokemon in play with abilities. And the thing is that none of the Tag Team GXs so far have had abilities. That's not to say none of them ever will, but it seems at this stage like they just don't have abilities. I mean, we've seen like a dozen of them now, and they just don't have abilities. So the way I'm seeing it is, unless you're playing some kind of really good Pokemon to back them up that has an ability, as good as Coach Trainer can be in these decks, is it necessarily as good as playing Green Search would be? That's one of the biggest things that I come away with here. Having said that, we do see Pika ROM decks coming around, and Pika ROM decks do tend to play Tapu Koko, although to be fair, you do Lost Zone that from the bench, so then you have no abilities in play. But then again, sometimes they play Tapu Koko GX, and maybe you have to play Tapu Lele in the early game to get yourself set up, or maybe you play Dedenne in the early game and get yourself set up. And as soon as you play something like Tapu Lele, Dedenne, etc., you've either got to get it off the field or accept the fact that Green Search is just not something you're able to use. And Tag Team GXs have been very, very successful. Now, technically speaking, I have shown you a video of every single Tag Team GX that has been released in Japan winning a tournament. Now, that is slightly cheating because although Marshadow and Machamp has been featured in a winning deck, it was that Porygon Z deck I showed you yesterday, which played 7 different Tag Team GXs and 1 copy of each, link in the description. So, it does still count. It has still won a tournament, but let's make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, it's a little bit disingenuous. But even so, Tag Team GXs are really, really good. And they've seen an awful lot of play, and this is a very good draw card that's going to help them out. Is it better than Green Search? Arguably not. We also come down with the whole Ace Roller thing here, because when you're playing Tag Team GXs, they give up free prizes. They're not things that you really want to have go down. So you want to play Ace Roller here to save them. And yeah, your opponent might play a Mr. Mime to stop you and Boo Hiss, etc. But there are other supporters you're going to want to use. But in terms of just pure draw, this could work. But let's go back to that Porygon Z deck I showed you yesterday. It's not always going to happen, but sometimes Tag Team GXs are going to want a combination of cards. So if you're looking at something like Porygon Z, you want the combination of Rare Candy and Porygon Z. Well, this just gives you straight draw. So now you're drawing 4 cards, and unlike something like Lily, you don't have to empty out your hand to draw the most number of cards, you're just drawing 4. And I know that Porygon Z, that deck did play Green Search, but as soon as Porygon Z hits the field, Green Search becomes a pointless card, you're literally not allowed to play it. I think there are going to be times this works. It's a very situational card. You cannot play it in a deck where you're really just playing the odd Tag Team GX here and there. It's not really going to work. But if you're playing it, and obviously you can't play it in a deck where you're not playing Tag Team GXs, I'd like to think that was fairly obvious. But there are going to be decks where you are playing Tag Team GXs, and like I've said, they've all been winning. It's good. They are confirmed good. Then this just becomes the best pure draw we've got in the format at the moment, and that alone makes me quite like it. So I'm going to give it 4 Wassies, and that might be a little bit generous because of the narrow scope of the decks that can actually use it, but I feel alright with that. But maybe you don't, in which case, hey look, there's a comment section. Tell me what you think. Go nuts, but please do remember the rule, ladies and gentlemen. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about games that don't have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.